Welcome back, folks, to another episode of ASI Outdoors. I'm your host, Ben. I'm a gunsmith who went to Northern Alberta Institute of Technology, also happened to be a victim of gun violence. We're going to talk more about the 2020 prohibition, the gun ban buyback. I'm going to go into a little bit of a breakdown of what you may expect post-amnesty in October if you live in British Columbia, and this ends up panning out. I'm going to go through a list of the cities that have agreed to go ahead with the buyback program, the police departments that have signed on. What can you expect post-amnesty period for October? Say, if you happen to have one of these, you didn't know that you did, or say that it's registered to you, the RCMP knows that you have it, and maybe for whatever reason you didn't get the mail that they sent to you or other things like that, this is what potentially you could be expecting. The story goes back quite a few years. It involves my early antique days of purchasing guns, antique guns, pre-1898s that are in obsolete calibers. This involves actually two separate pieces, hilariously enough. One was basically an antique revolver that should be in the obsolete class. It was from the country of origin that claimed it to be made before 1898. They had the certification that it was both the country of manufacture and also the country that it was used by as a sidearm for the military. Both had paperwork from their governments stating that it was made before 1898. Yet for whatever reason, once I had it in the country, they for whatever reason decided that no, that information was not credible, and whatever information that they had superseded that. I believe they may have even changed their mind since then, and it may now be antique. This is how stupid they are with some of this stuff. I have one of those, and then I also have another supposed to be antique that was purchased from Joe Salter. He has a company both in the States and Canada. If you're wondering why he won't ship to Canada anymore, this is going to be the story of why. What ended up happening with Joe Salter is I saw an antique that he had for sale in the States, matched all the compliance regulations to be considered an antique in Canada, pre-1898, all the things. He had an RCMP verifier verify this on his end, so he had credible paperwork to back that up. Which point it was, of course, brought into the country. And when I was going ahead to sell it, because I did quite a bit of selling back then, I was probably like the second or third highest antique dealer in Canada at that point. What ended up happening was one of my competitors, whose name is Chris, who owns Old Guns Canada, he had contacted me basically saying that his RCMP verifier had said that it was not an antique, and that I was now basically in possession of like a restricted or something like that. Again, I can't remember even what the barrel length was. I think they both were considered restricted. Anyways, I have a restricted, so my thought was, okay, they made a mistake here. It's not my problem. They can just register them to me. Turns out, no. They wanted to kick my door in, take those things, destroy them and melt them, and not give me the opportunity even to deactivate them. So of course, in my quick thinking, there's basically regulations within the Gunsmiths Act that you're allowed to take firearms to deactivate them. So I had somebody whose name is Ron. He was an older fellow, known him for a while, kind of was in the same space as me. This is kind of like just around the time that I was in my gunsmith genesis. Ron, being kind of like the godfather, came over to my house directly and picked these things up for me and took them off my hands so I didn't have to deal with the RCMP trying to kick my door in. So Ron was also registered with the RCMP to be able to deactivate them. So he was going to deactivate them for me. I was thinking, okay, at least I get to keep them. I'm not out another $4,000 or $5,000, whatever. The next day, unfortunately, Ron had a heart attack during the night and passed away. He was at his house, had a heart attack. They called the police, his old lady. Before he was even cold, the cops were in his house, kicking through all of his gun safes, etc., because this is just past 2020, I believe, when they'd done that. So there were all these ARs and stuff that Ron had, of course, and they wanted to take all of his stuff. Wasn't even considerate of the now widow. Didn't even care about that at all. Was just more concerned about taking all of his guns, even though he was already deceased at the time. Pretty disgusting, if you want my honest opinion on that one. What ended up happening was the RCMP head unit in Ontario then call me and absolutely tear strip off me, yell at me, berate me. These are some guys from Ontario and their special firearms division or something they have back east for the RCMP. And they're saying, why didn't you let us know? Blah, 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 blah. Why didn't Ron say anything? All these other things they were going off on, trying to tear a strip off Ron, basically, for not following through with his part of the deactivation process or what he needed to do to inform them. And I just said, look, guys, he's dead. He's not able to tell you these things because he has died. I don't know if there's any more I can really tell you besides that. When somebody dies, typically they're not, gonna maybe call you the next day and say, hey, look, I had these guns I was gonna deactivate. Here they are. Here's the serial number. Here are the circumstances. So, of course, then they start trying to call my local police department, at which point they give me a call because I don't really particularly have any problems with them. I mean, I went to elementary school with some of these people, preschool. I mean, they're actually not horrible people. So, anyways, so what ends up happening is they call me, my local police department, and they say, look, these guys, I don't know what their problem is. They're losing their minds over this. We know Ron has passed away. We know the circumstances. This is absolutely ridiculous. And basically says, you're just going to have to return their call. I'm saying to them, why can't I have them registered? What's the whole deal with this? Why is there some reason that you can't have them registered? And they're basically saying because they were illegally basically obtained, even though the RCMP verifier was the one who gave the documents to ship this shit into Canada. And also, the other one, the country of origin had all these documents. Yeah, meanwhile, my local police department was like, yeah, we're not doing that. The RCMP, I guess, dropped it because they realized how absolutely farted it was that they were trying to give me the gears for deactivating these things when the guy passed away and all the circumstances around it. Anyways, they never let me actually deactivate them. They took 2 antique revolvers that are about 150 years old with much historical significance, and they decided to cut them up. If that is what... Oh, that was also the RCMP, it wasn't local police. They showed up at Ron's shop after he had passed away and took them and then destroyed them. So that's basically the long short of what you can expect. It's not going to be your local police folks that are willing to do this shit. It's going to be some other person that's going to come in. RCMP, some of these people, I don't know if they're slightly autistic, the guys that got working there or whatever, but they're like a fat kid on a Smartie. Once they get on something, even if they're wrong, they're still going to beat it down just so they can try and seem themselves to be right. And they don't understand, they're like RoboCop when it comes to the letter of the law. They don't understand basic stuff like, oh, maybe the person died, and that's why you don't have the information. Well, where I was going with this is, it's not going to be the local police departments that are willing to do this. It's going to be somewhere else, somebody else. I don't know where they're going to get the manpower personally. It's also probably going to be an attrition thing where they don't know logic, they don't understand logic, they just honestly don't care. So they'll come for you anyways. Then we got another story here. Another story, which I believe is from the same department. So I have a person that I dealt with many times. He was on Pawn Stars many times. You'd probably recognize him if I said who it was. I'm not going to. I dealt with him frequently during my antique days. There was a antique Otis Smith, which according to the RCMP had 1 year in 1898 that it was produced. According to all of their paperwork sourced, that is not true, just FYI, from the American side as well. So they have that there. I'm thinking, okay, better safe than sorry because of all this other crap, because they're so stupid. I might as well get the antique letter before I bring it in. I believe it's the same person I've been dealing with on this other stuff, if you can believe it, is the one that's in charge of giving me this letter, going through the process, and he sends me the application. Well, I'm going through the application. It's saying what country of origin, what is it, what's the serial number, provide some pictures, all these things. Okay, that's all fine, dandy. And then it goes to actually importing it. It wants to know what day you're going to import it, where it's coming through the country, meaning like what border crossing exactly it will be coming through, and that's including if you're planning to mail it. But this is all before they've actually provided the paperwork for you to send it. So how am I supposed to know what day any of these things are going to be coming over when you guys take 1.5 to 2 years to even process the paperwork to give me? That's a whole thing there. About 1.5 years after I've submitted all the paperwork I need to, given them all the photos, all that, I get an email. And it says, would you like to proceed with your application? Why are you giving me an email saying if I'd like to proceed, considering I've already sent you all the information? It said, oh no, you didn't fill out the part where it said where it was going to come through what channel and what border crossing it was going to come through. And I said, yes, I filled out letter mail via UPS or whatever service I was planning to use on the form. How am I supposed to know what UPS is going to do 1.5 years from now, sir? This is the kind of stuff you got to deal with. A lot of these people are so dug in on their ideology and like I said, honestly, slightly autistic, that it's very difficult to actually deal with them. I made a formal complaint against this person. They still have their job, and they now don't really want to deal with me at all, which is the reason why I don't deal in antiques, because they're absolute boobs, and they won't give me the information that I need to proceed legally, and they cherry pick other providers, like, for example, people I mentioned before, to give them paperwork priority, and then leave other sellers like myself out, and then also are trying to potentially say, oh, you're breaking the law for these other things, but then aren't providing the stuff in a timely fashion. A lot of this is a lost cause, and realistically, we need to get the RCMP out of the firearms program. It's really imperative. Like, I don't know who needs to be dealing with it, not them, definitely not the liberals. The cities that are going to be going ahead with this, the police forces that have agreed to in British Columbia, I'll give you the following info now. Following police stations and departments have agreed to confiscate assault-style weapons in British Columbia. The NDP government has also expressed their support, unfortunately, so boo for you, David Eby. Not cool. The only people that are right now signed on is Surrey Police and RCMP. So if you don't live in Surrey or you don't have the RCMP, then as of right now, you don't have anything to worry about. However, like I said in the story before, my local police wanted no business in this absolute shenanigans from the RCMP, but the RCMP had no problem coming in on their own if they wanted to. I wouldn't hold your breath. Again, this is going to be kind of like an attrition thing. We're just going to have to wear them out, and I mean that politically. We're just going to have to grind them down, make it as hard as absolutely possible for them to make this happen. Protest, and again, I don't know if you're allowed to protest in front of a police station in British Columbia due to, again, the laws that David Eby put in. Can't protest in front of like government infrastructure, so I don't know if that includes the police departments. My honest thing would be get together some people from your community that are like-minded, peacefully protest in front of the police station, make them know that we're their friends, we're with them. I mean, a lot of these people are quite literally our friends. There's people that we've grown up with in our community. Yeah, so they obviously don't want to do this either. They don't want to kick doors in. They don't want to hurt people that they've played baseball with or used to go to barbecues or whatever. So, I mean, ultimately, we're just going to have to stay level-headed through this, remain calm, keep on, and ultimately, like I said, like with the RCMP, they're like a fat kid on a Smartie. We're just going to have to throw that Smartie way off down the hill for him to go run after.
Like and subscribe, folks. We're almost at 1,000 subscribers. Almost finally monetized after like 5 years. So if you guys could subscribe, I would really greatly appreciate that. Of course, no pressure, but you'd be helping me out a lot. So thanks everyone who watched the video all the way through. And like I said, the only way we're going to get through this is if we stick together. Don't let them do all this stuff with the infighting. Like I said, the police largely are our friends, the local municipal police. They're going to be the reason why this fails if it does fail. So help them, put the pressure on them politely, and also put the pressure on your local MPs, because a lot of the MPs in the Vancouver area are liberal or NDP. There's a handful of conservatives, but make it known to them that you're not going to vote for them next year if you did. I don't know how many people actually did, but yeah, they need to drop it. There's a lot of constituents here that are sport shooters and hunters, and it's ultimately not fair to be going after people that typically never break the law, and I don't see break the law in my own community. And then just basically catch and release. Don't do anything about the career criminals. Say, oh, look, they had a bad childhood. Sorry, there's nothing we can do about it. Basically, if we had them smiling on camera like this while they did it, we'd still let them out. So it also gets to a point where it's like, well, if they're not enforcing the law for these people, then why should they be doing it for us? Oh yeah, and to Jason, I told you I was going to make this video like a year ago, and I, for whatever reason, I've yet to, but I think the timing really suited itself, so thanks for being the one, help everyone else understand what we're going to potentially be dealing with. Oh yeah, and I'm well aware that I may have came off slightly salty, but what if somebody came into your yard and took a $5,000 or $6,000 vehicle you own and decided to turn it into a cube? How would you feel about that one? And give them zero compensation either. You know how much money I've lost because of you guys doing that kind of stuff? Probably $10,000 to $20,000. And I have not been compensated, so hey, if there's somebody out there like Runkle who thinks they can get that money for me, come on down.